Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can also listen to this on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And we have a PayPal account for any donations that you'd like to give. Your generosity is greatly appreciated.
Welcome, everybody, to the Gate Expectations podcast, where I bring in a weekly guest, talk all things Yu-Gi-Oh!, and get to know a little more about each person I talk to. This is the only Yu-Gi-Oh! Podcast that is run by a full-fledged journalist such as myself. This is episode 36. And if you haven't checked it out yet, you can check out earlier podcasts with guests like Stephen Trivanowski, Jesse Cotton, Team Samurai X1, Farfa, Crush Cards, Simo, and many more. My two guests for this week are members of arguably the most dominant team in Yu-Gi-Oh! History. Countless event tops and two huge players in GOAT format. It's Dale, Bellido, and Kris Perovic of Team Overdose. That is God and Superman with me here. Dale and Kris, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks. Go ahead, Kris. Go ahead. I mean,
we haven't done this before, so we're not really good at it. Dale, thank you for having me. David, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be back. Dale, you go.
Yeah, not arguably, but thank you for not arguably the best team.
Yeah, I was gonna say something.
Yeah,
the best.
I didn't want to interrupt his spiel.
Yeah, that's fair. I've had somebody that actually interrupted me in the middle of my spiel, and we left it on too, like on the final recording. We let that go. And there's some background noise. I think.
God, can you guys hear that? Oh my God! It sounds like sounds like farting, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a drill in the back.
It almost sounds like a whale singing. Almost.
Yeah, I have no idea how to. I mean, I could probably walk even further away from it. But there's like no comfy. There's no couch, and like I have a spare bedroom upstairs that's like all nothing in it, and I just don't want to sit in a spare bedroom.
I think this is the longest I've ever gone and done an intro without actually Yu-Gi-Oh! Like being spoke about so far. So we're breaking barriers as we speak, and we're only a couple minutes into the podcast.
That's what we did. Overdose always broke barriers.
That is true. And I also want to take this opportunity, man, to Kris. I want to congratulate you. You just got engaged today, actually.
Wow, no. So I got engaged a couple weeks ago, but it became Facebook official today. Like,
that's right. Okay.
It was just more like, let's like post it, I guess. But yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you for making me look like a fool now. Thank you so much.
I like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then Dale, you're not too far behind either, because I think you got engaged just late last year.
Yeah, about a year ago.
Yeah, so that's good. Me, I'm not quite yet yet, but we're getting close to that area with my girlfriends. Getting close. Not quite there, almost there though. So
pressure's on
behind you guys. I know, right? Pressure is on now. I have to go buy that ring. That's what I have to do next.
Yeah, that's the big one.
That's always the big one. All right, so now to actually get to some Yu-Gi-Oh! Talk, granted, two you gentlemen here, some of the finest players that have ever been in the league, not playing so much now, but you guys are still very active in GOAT format. I know that Dale, you released some commentary videos not too long ago, and then Kris, you also did kind of an interview discussion with Yannick Lewicki about his zombie deck. So let's start with that, because that one's the most recent one so far. Kris, we had a zombie deck that won GOAT format's last event there. Really, really cool deck. I think it's like 3 Pyramid Tunnels, 3 Rio Kokis. Kills a lot of warriors. Kind of walk me through what happened during that interview.
Yeah, so I mean, I reached out to Delinquent as soon as the tournament ended, and I congratulated him because I was really ecstatic to see that he won FLC 17 with this zombie deck, which, I mean, it was on nobody's radar. And in particular, not even just the fact that it was a zombie deck, but that it was a zombie deck in conjunction with main decking 3 Kaikus and 3 Royal Decrees, which is a great meta call right now. And so I reached out to him right away, and I was like, hey man, I am super proud that you did this thing. Like, good job. And then we got to talking a little bit about the things that other people seem to think about the deck, and like what misconceptions were still out there, and so there was basically like this void of space that he wanted to talk about, like to fill with his own thoughts of what led him to run that deck, and how things went for him and what he would do going forward. And I said I was more than happy to hop on a camera and talk to him about it. And he was grateful. I mean for the opportunity. But so was I. I mean, I was also grateful for the opportunity. It was just a really good thing where we were able to get together and talk about it. Anyway, so the deck was just. It was a really good meta call. I'm just saying in particular because Ryokoki is 2,400. It beats over Chaos Sorcerer, which is now the center point of GOAT format. And it also uses Royal Decree, which is really strong against Chaos Warriors and Chaos Turbo, which are the two most popular decks. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more I can say about that. I say go check out that video. I talked to him. It's posted on the GoatFormat.com YouTube page. Go check that out. You'll hear from the man's mouth himself. But I just want to say the main thing about that is it really, to me, is the most exciting thing that has happened in GOAT format in years. And because everyone's, there's been a slow transition from GOAT Control to Chaos Turbo and Chaos Warriors, but for somebody to shake it up and so violently and dominate the field so convincingly in such a surprising way is exciting to me. And I think it should be exciting to everyone else who plays GOAT format.
Dale, did you happen to see that deck list at all?
Oh yeah, I definitely saw it.
Yeah, so when I look at it, we say zombies, even though there's 7. There's 3 Pyramid Turtle, 3 Ryokoki, and 1 Vampire Lord. But it has Giant Rat to support the Pyramid Turtle, which is arguably like one of the best cards of the deck, which make Ryokoki a Vampire Lord. How did this deck like kind of dominate the meta right now in GOAT format?
It's just the meta call, like one of the stronger meta calls, and it's very similar to, I mean, like when Gravekeepers, I don't know if you remember when Gravekeepers came out of nowhere, and it was just like a solid meta call type of thing, and that's something that I draw it back to. Like if you were to pinpoint the time in Yu-Gi-Oh where a solid meta call took everyone by storm, it was when Gravekeepers. I don't remember what the format was, but
it was Tengu Plants, I think you're talking about.
Yeah, and then Gravekeeper just came and Royal tributed everybody. So yeah, it feels like that right now, but we there has been, I think, 2 tournaments since, and I'm not sure if anyone piloted those decks, that deck.
No, I don't think they have, and that's one of those things that I was talking to. So the tournament that he won was 2 weeks ago. That was, and to Dale's point, that is the last major tournament, quote unquote major tournament that GOAT format has had. In the past 2 weeks, we've had smaller tournaments. There's the World Championship Qualifier, which is a Patreon exclusive tournament, but it's not as open, it's not as prestigious as the FLC tournaments are. But yeah, to Dale's point, no one's run it. And when I had the conversation with Jenik yesterday, and we were, one of the things we talked about was, are people sleeping on this? Are people giving it its due credit? And I mean, him and I both agree that they're not. I mean, I'm not saying that zombies are the second coming of GOAT Control here, but I also think that there's something to the concept of recruiters having an inherent way to both protect your life points and special summon a beater that's stronger than Blade Knights and Kaikus. And for that, I'm saying it has a really good matchup against the deck that, in fact, actually most people are playing. Well, I don't say most people, but more people right now are playing Chaos Warriors and Warrior variants than they are Chaos Turbo. It's a slim margin. It's a slim comparison, but the numbers bear that out in the last 2 events where Chaos Warrior and these aggro decks are more popular. And I'm just saying that this zombie deck is not being looked at, I think, heavily enough, or at the very least experimented with as a baseline, because there are some choices that I think a lot of people would look at that deck and say, does it need to be there? But you would think, I mean, or at least I would have expected that somebody would have Well, they could have done one of two things. They could have taken the zombie shell that he started with and modify that, or take some of the good things or some of the interesting things of that and apply it to other things. I was really expecting in the last couple of events somebody to take a Chaos Turbo deck, main deck Royal Decree, and maybe add Tribute to the Doomed instead of Regeki Break. But I haven't seen that in the past 2 weeks either. So I'm just saying it seems like it's being slept on for one reason or another, and I think that there's going to be a reckoning sooner or later where people like are forced to relook at this because it does well and they're not expecting it to.
Yeah, because when we look at this deck, we see like 6 recruiters right off the bat with Giant Rat and Pyramid Turtle. For people who don't know what a recruiter is, it's when a monster is destroyed by battle and it gets a special summon another monster from the deck. And then it's running 3 Berserk Gorilla, which pretty much trounces like every single like normal summonable monster that like all the Chaos Warrior decks are playing right now, outside of a pumped up Blade Knight, which it just trades off, which is still big in its own right. And then not to mention like Vampire Lord is again kind of has that same attack, but also is very problematic for a lot of those warrior decks because their only outs at this point are a pumped up Blade Knight or a DD Warrior Lady, which and then with Royal Decree shutting off all the traps, there's so many problems that this deck can give, and it's such a great utility but also a huge beatdown deck. What other things could both of you attribute to this deck's success that happened a couple weeks ago?
Dale, you want to talk about it?
It's just surprise factor. I think it's surprise factor, and people aren't used to dealing with recruiters. People don't know how to play against recruiters. Like, I have a game plan for every matchup, as so does Kris. And I know how I play that matchup, and honestly, I'm hoping people play that deck. No offense. No offense.
Well, yeah, so, I mean, Dale, I think that if I was playing, for example, if I was playing a Thunder Dragon Chaos Control deck, which I imagine that you're probably on right now, I would think that, I want to play against this deck. It's a good matchup. But if you were playing like a Warrior deck, I think that this would be like the bane of your existence. You don't want to play against a deck with 6 recruiters turning into Ryukokis and Royal Decree. So I do think it's it was a good meta call for that tournament. There were more aggro decks. The aggro decks in general took over more than 50% of the field of the tournament they played it, which is really high historically speaking. But all of that is just there's pressure on people to beat Chaos Turbo. More aggro decks than there were Chaos Turbo in the field. And this is a really good deck for that, in part because like I said, Ryukoki just is bigger than their monsters, but also Royal Decree. It is a very powerful card in GOAT format right now, and I think that's being slept on. And to Dale's point, if I'm right, I mean, Dale, you correct me if I'm wrong. If you're on Thunder Dragon Chaos Control, one of the things that you have that would make you want to play against this deck is like you've got these extra scapegoats and Thousand Eyes Restrict that just make it such a huge problem. But most people aren't doing that right now, and I think that's created an opportunity for something like this to succeed.
Yeah, 100% of how I play, especially with like Thunder Dragon Chaos Control not having too many traps, so you're not really affected by Decree, and you could free willingly do stuff when Decree's up.
Yep.
So,
and then this kind of style of deck, kind of became a little bit popular in formats afterwards. Like when we had Shonen Jump Championship Philly, Indianapolis, and Hamilton, which is adjacent to Toronto for people who don't know. That's where we started to see a lot of the recruiter chaos once Metamorphosis kind of got hit, and then people were turning to more like triple Shining Angel, triple Mystic Tomato, and then kind of combining that maybe with like Zaborg or that kind of stuff. And we saw Stein came out of nowhere. I think that won Hamilton. I'm pretty sure undefeated was Corey Fabish. And so now we kind of see like a year in the future of GOAT format in a sense, because Recruiter was so popular after GOAT format kind of died out, but now it's kind of like surfaced again with this zombie deck. Is that something that both of you would kind of agree upon with that?
Yeah, I don't. Can I
go? You, Dale, first. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No. So I'm going to. If you see a lot of my tier list videos, which I know a lot of people don't agree on some of this stuff, but I always kind of rank Recruiter high based off what it might be able to do. Like historically, Recruiter monsters are strong, right? And I feel like it's still yet to be broken. But yeah, I kind of.
So I can chime in.
Yeah,
I can say there's two things. One is let's not. There's a certain segment of the GOAT format community that have liked historically Angel Chaos Control, which is just it's like well, it's not like Chaos Recruiters. It's actually very different, but I'm just going to say it uses Metamorphosis with Shining Angel. That's a different deck. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about Mystic Tomato, Shining Angel, and maybe Zaborgs and stuff like that with no Metamorphosis or Scapegoat, or no, like more akin to the 2006 decks. I think that's what David's talking about.
Okay.
And to the point of what I said no about is, so the thing to pay attention to in this current era of GOAT format is how much everything sort of revolves around Chaos Sorcerer. And if the format was just GOAT control, then I think that Chaos Recruiters would be really strong. As in, like, your 1400 recruiters would be fodder for, or bait for, Thousand Eyes Restrict. And you can now summon your Chaos Sorcerers on top of that to remove the Thousand Eyes Restrict and create a problem for GOAT control. But the format isn't GOAT control. Nowadays, like I said, it's all Chaos Sorcerers. So those Mystic Tomatoes and Shining Angels, when you put them on the board, they are just there to get removed by Chaos Sorcerer. And the problem with that compared to zombies, the thing that zombies, the recruiter engine that zombies can run, is that they can turn those recruiters on their own turn into something to answer the Chaos Sorcerer if it's left in attack mode. And that makes it fundamentally different than the Shining Angel Mystic Tomato version, which, you know, best you can do is hope to pull maybe a Nidori out of your deck or a DD Warrior Lady out of your deck, and then just break even taking a bunch of life point damage. So it's not the same. And I don't think that you're going to see Chaos Recruiter sort of come back, or at the very least, not in the form it was in 2006. Just because you also have, in addition to Chaos Sorcerer, you know, even Chaos Sorcerer being in defense mode, which if people are smart in this matchup, they do. You also have to deal with something like Grave Spy in the format. And zombies have that way, or at least this zombie deck had this way of answering that situation by running one, Tribute to the Doom to answer face down spies, but number two, Ryokoki being able to attack over that. The fact that you know, that's all together, those zombie cards with the Ryokoki make one cohesive engine, including with Book of Life to remove cards, et cetera, et cetera. That makes it more synergistic than a Chaos Recruiter deck would by just tossing in Zaborgs. Zaborgs and having to draw into it does not answer that spy or sorcerer situation as reliably as this, like a one-card answer can turn into Koki to answer.
And then the deck is also running like triple Tribute to the Doomed as well, which is something that I don't think I've ever seen in GOAT format at all, like that card being run. I've seen like Offerings to the Doomed, but never anything like Tribute to the Doomed. And I'm only seeing it with like great discard fodder with Ryokoki, but I'm sure you guys can maybe share a little bit more insight of how that card was so effective in this deck, especially with Book of Life also being another card that would help synergize with that.
So I'm going to just I'm gonna talk back this point a bit to
go ahead,
to the recruiter deck, that why, like Kris says, it's not good. So I have a different stance on this, and I think recruiters are, I think, played incorrectly. Like one of the strengths in recruiter is creature swap, or Shining Angel brings out another monster that could get eaten up by sorcerer. What if you're playing it with like Recruiter Decree and triple book? Bring out a Faith, they have to sorcerer because you're going to make a play on it and have book for D. I just think there's a lot more that could be discovered with this deck. But no, Kris is right on a lot of stuff there. It's just, this is where I feel like there might be some untapped stuff still. I think Tsukiyomi is super underpowered, or not underpowered, underrated right now.
Yeah, it's definitely
and super underrated. I think it's one of the. It's going to make its way into. I think and I think like there's merit for it to be in the Chaos Warrior deck. To be honest, especially mirror matches and slower game.
That's different.
Honestly, I haven't. So there is a Clash of Champions this weekend that I'm committing the majority of my week to, but you never know. If we had this talk next Monday, I probably would have not said any of this stuff. So we'll see.
Dang, maybe I should have guys had you on next week instead of this week.
You could do that
Darn,
too.
Yeah,
you could do that too. Still fine.
that's something we have to think about. Yeah, because the Clash of Champions is happening next weekend, which is basically if you've won an event like a YCS Showdown Championship, doesn't matter, like it's ARG, it can be any of those events. You're eligible for this event. I'm pretty sure both of you are eligible for this event that's happening next week, which I could commentate. I'm not 100% sure yet. Depends on my schedule. I haven't told them I can commit to it yet, but it is definitely like a cool event. See that like you're basically going to see like top level play all across the board.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. You're also going to have a lot of, so just to touch on your point, yeah, if you've won a YCS, Shonen Jump, Go Format Championship, ARG, LCS, FLC, Nationals, Worlds, any point in history, not just in Go Format, but if you are a champion of any kind, you are invited to the Clash of the Champions. And the sign-up deadline for that is Saturday, April 24th. The tournament's going to be taking place on Sunday, April 25th. And there's big names already in there. You got me, Dale, you got Ryan Spicer, you got Jonathan LeBounty, you got Philly Luna. These are people that a lot of us grew up on reading Metagame. Their names are on Metagame, and I think it's going to be super interesting. I'm really excited for that.
Kris, are you going to be attending that event?
Yeah, that's like, there's only like 2 tournaments this year that I said, okay, I'll try to maybe fit in some other stuff throughout the year. But there are 2 guaranteed I am going to be playing in. 1 is Clash of the Champions and 2 is Worlds. I don't know how I'm qualifying for Worlds. Hopefully it's at Clash of the Champions. But those are the 2 that I'm most excited about this year.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, that's the same for me. Like, I really want to play this tournament, and I was hammering Scully to put it on a Sunday. I'm like, put it on a Sunday so I could please play. Just like, so I don't have to take off another day off. Like, I already have my invite for Worlds, but I just want to, like, beat Kris.
Well, we'll get to that a little bit later on. That is something I want to ask Dad later on in this podcast. But now to focus on Dale a little bit more now, because lately now you've been starting to release more like gameplay breakdowns of these GOAT format decks, and kind of taking you a blast from the past. I remember, Dale, like way back when I was actually Yu-Gi tubing and you were as well. You were basically doing the same thing. You were doing like dual commentaries of videos that were surfaced up on the net, and you would comment on them, like often your own. And now you've kind of brought that back into GOAT format. So can you tell me a little bit more about these videos that you're now doing with GOAT format, about these gameplay breakdowns?
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of us romance with GOAT format as being like this very, very pure Yu-Gi-Oh format where a lot of it is heavily decided on reads. And a lot of the new school players don't think that reads were super important back then. So I like to post a lot of content where, for example, in the 2 games that I recently posted, my opponent opens 2 pieces of Trinity. So he opens Pot, Delinquent, and Dushoot, and I still win that game. And then there's another game where he opens Trinity, Set Faith, or Graceful Duo, Set Faith. Like, I'm just, and my hands aren't super strong, but reads are super important. And a lot of people don't understand why I make plays or why I make reads. I'm sure Kris has broken down a couple of my games, and he's like, oh, why'd you do that? And then I probably couldn't explain it properly, but he's like, oh, yeah, you drew Ring to bail you out of there. But no, it's just I like to talk about my gameplay and what separates the next tier players to the very good players already. There's very few players that are up there. There's a lot of extremely talented duelists right now, but then there is another level. And like, am I at that level? Yeah, but is there a level further ahead? I think there is. Yeah, the Kris Perovic level, but but yeah, honestly, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! I such a passion. Like, it's a passion project for me to show, like, hey, you could do this stuff, and it's not all whoever gets lucky and draws better. I think we've always known that as top level players, but yeah, just to show, like, I like to show that, hey, I'm still pretty good at this game.
Mhm.
So
I remember back in a lot of these older formats, making the reads were so huge, and I try to implement that in the current Yu-Gi-Oh! Nowadays. I can still make them here and there, but way back when, we had to be turns and turns and turns ahead of players, and that was every time when I came down to Toronto and played with you guys at Card Masters. Dale, this is you. You guys were so far ahead of the game. It was amazing how much foresight you guys had, and then Kris also was a sick player for knowing how to make reads, and it's just disgusting the kind of reads you can make, Kris. I've watched you play in real life and online, and your reasoning and logic, which speaks to my heart so much because I'm a philosophy major, using those skills get you these sick reads, and it's kind of uncanny how you can make these guys. So how can you make these kinds of reads in GOAT format? That was that we say is reads are all about it, about the game.
So if you don't mind, I'll start on this one, Kris, and you can elaborate or take your point. But so you said what you said there was foresight, where people are looking forward, but a lot of people are forgetting what happened earlier, right? So I think Kris is very similar, where we can almost remember the whole game as it goes on by just looking at the graveyard and be like, okay, this happened here, he did this because of this, and honestly, if I were to break down a fifth, a match, it could probably take an hour to not just the match, one of the games, to be like, I made this play because of this. And people they're only looking forward, and they don't often refer to opponent behavior patterns and how players will play a game 1, a game 2, a game 3. And it's just, in-game stuff, and being able to, a read is just as strong as a top deck, right? So that's how I view it. And I'm gonna talk this back to that zombie deck, where if Decree is up, that's less reads for me to have to make. So that's why I love that matchup. I love cards. I love stuff that shut off a certain amount of cards. I'm okay, so now I only have to play around these. So that's why the zombie deck is very good. Don't get me wrong, very innovative. But please, everyone, I want that. I want all of it.
Could you elaborate on that point more on how Decree makes you have to make less reads?
Yeah, I don't have to worry about traps.
Okay.
And okay, so now I'm only worrying about, okay, so if this, Kris even said to a point where, you summon Chaos Sorcerer in defense because the only outs are now Tribute to the Doomed, right? So it's just small stuff that you have to know how to, again, learning how to play matchups. I think one of the most skillful matchups to play is against Burn, right? Good players know how to play against Burn, right? And there's people that think it's a cheese deck, but there's ways to win. You don't even need to draw perfect, just know how to play against it, and you could navigate your way around that matchup. Kris, all you.
Okay. I mean, I wanted to hear you talk more about that, because I don't think that Burn is necessarily the best matchup that or best exemplifies how skillful a player is when they're playing against it. I think it's definitely something you need to know, and definitely something about how to play against it. But I also think that it doesn't matter. Forget Burn. I don't want to talk about Burn. Separate from that, I just want to say, back to the reads thing. So that's probably, before Diamond Dude Turbo was a thing. I think that I was probably best known for the reads that I make, both online, because I started as a YVD player, and in real life. And I've got some really cool stories. We don't need to get into that now, but I'll just say that Dale's right that about how you can formulate reads. There's more. I think there's more to that. David, you said something before about just logically and reasonably deducing things, or you hinted at that, and that's a big part of it too. But the thing is, it's also not just in terms of how do I put this? If I want to. If I stole a Chaos Sorcerer on the previous turn, and then my opponent gave it to me when there was one back row, and then they drew, and they didn't shuffle their hand, and they set the card they drew with, which was a monster. I know that like I can pretty safely use Thousand Eyes Restrict on my following turn because there's not going to be a Book of Moon behind that face down monster because he would have used it. Like, so that's like a process of elimination kind of read. That's not difficult. That's just okay. Well, it's not Book of Moon. What is that? Whatever. There's also a lot in behavior that and it's really funny because. Dale, I watched your video, like part 1 of your match against SD Killa, and there was a spot where he set a back row, attacked the monster, and you talked about what that could be. You highlighted that it was an important card, and then after he attacked the monster, he set a second spell trap, and you kept saying that it was an important card. All I kept saying when I was watching this video was, okay, obviously that's a dust shoot. Obviously,
I said that too, though. Yeah,
he did say that.
He
said it before it was flipped.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Then okay.
I know that.
Yeah, he did.
So if you watch that whole video, he does that again, and I'm like, I know that's dust shoot.
Okay. Well.
So I pick up on it.
Well, okay. Again. Anyway, my point is really not just in terms of like, I mean, I'll go back and watch it separate. That's separate. But I'm saying my point is that's a behavioral read. That's like, oh, people get into patterns when they play. And when they know that they want to protect their one card in case they run into a Morphing Jar, they want to protect this one card. This is the one card I definitely want to activate following. Like, that's a signal. And the same thing also, there was a later in that match when he had Ring of Destruction and you had a read on Ring of Destruction or Book of Moon. But when you said Ring of Destruction first, my thought to you when I was watching the video was, Dale, you just made a good read because that is Ring of Destruction. And it turned out that it was Ring of Destruction. But those were not logical deductions as much as they were behavioral deductions. And there's a lot that you can catch online. People maybe don't think that you can. But how often somebody looks at their graveyard, how often they shuffle their hand or don't shuffle their hand, what they set, when they set it, where they set it. These things all come into play. And in real life, there's so much more information. And I guess to answer the question that you actually posed in the beginning of this conversation, David, it's the best way to make the best reads is to be in the game. And a lot of people, they aren't. I mean, they're sitting there and they're playing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they're not there. What I mean is that Dale touched on this before. This is the thought I was going through my head as he was talking about it. Like, we can reconstruct games from graveyards, but most of the time, it depends if I'm playing online, if I'm busy doing other things in it. But certainly almost all the time when I'm in real life, I don't need to look at a graveyard. I know everything that happened in this game. I know why it happened. I know what I expected. And I know like what surprised me or what I was mad about, like what draws you had, or what draws you can have from this point forward. I know how many knocks are gone. I know how many of your guys are banished from knock or whatever. Like, and that's because in the game, I am in the moment. And that is my one most salient skill that I have generally that I've been able to apply to Yu-Gi-Oh! And find success with. And that is just taking myself off of autopilot to the point where it's like I am focused on the game. And I'd say for anyone who was interested in, I guess, diving into that subject deeper and learning more about how to do that, I'd recommend it. I made this recommendation before. I recommend it all the time. In fact, there's a book called Talent is Overrated. I think the subtitle is What Separates World-Class Performers from Everybody Else. Yeah, exactly. It's from Jeff Colvin. And it's a great book. And in the book, he talks about the story. I'll give you the shorthand version. It's about Tiger Woods and like how great Tiger Woods was. And like golfers, most of the time they have their swing. They'll wind up and they'll swing. And they have this motion that they, try to practice and harness and try to perfect. And they try to execute it every time they're making a long drive. And he's seen people like in the middle of their swing get distracted by something that like somebody coughs or somebody drops something or a piece of glass breaks or like there's a car backfire or something. But that he saw this one match where Tiger Woods could have been distracted by something like that. I forget what it was. Mid swing, and all of a sudden Tiger stopped. And he'd never seen somebody stop mid swing like that before. And the whole point of that was just to give a lesson on how to take yourself off autopilot, to not just do the thing that you've practiced 10,000 times before, but be in the moment and try to execute in the moment as perfectly as you can. And if you're in the moment when you're playing a Go format game, I think reads will come to you a lot more naturally, a lot more accurately than if you're just trying to do what everyone else does, which is just like I guess the thing that most people do is just like the logical deductions. And not everyone's particularly great at that. But yeah, reads do matter. I don't know if they matter as much right now in Yu-Gi-Oh compared to when everything was a Go control mirror match, but they definitely matter. They definitely decide games. So it's definitely a skill you want to practice and harness and try to perfect.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry, guys. Dale's got some renovation going on in the house right now, which is that background noise. But Kris, I want to touch up on you for one point in this, and Dale, you can get on in this too afterwards, because this is kind of relevant for the here and now, because the whole pandemic, everybody is like being forced to play online with remote duels, and then of course Goat format is being done the same way. It's being done on Dueling Book. And, as an experience you played on YVD, which is Yu-Gi-Oh! Virtual Desktop, which is like the OG of online play. So is it different having to make those kinds of reads online than it is in person?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I told you there's a lot more information available to you in real life. You'll find that when people, how do I put this? So people shuffle their hands like sort of incessantly in real life. It's like something we just do. It's sort of like how poker players will play with chips at the table. And you can tell by the position of card, like the specific cards in their hand, which cards they value more. And if you're paying attention to that, you're paying attention to how long they've had it or stuff like that, you can deduce really like important information like, oh, he's got a tribe or a snatch in his hand. And it's not just because I haven't given him an opportunity to use it. It's because that's the only thing that it could be. And that kind of thing is what can keep you away from committing to the board before the time is right. And I'm just saying that kind of information, the physical information of where's my opponent looking, how much is my opponent focused on the graveyard, how much is my opponent trying to calculate, like that stuff is all way more present in real life. Online, that stuff isn't there as much, but I'd say there's still a lot of information online, and a lot of it comes from nowadays anyway. Like I'd say in 2021, the average skill level of Go format players is probably below what the best players were in 2005. But still way better than the average GOAT player in 2005. Most people know a lot of things, a lot of the tricks today, because the information's been out there, and they've been able to play. Like back in the day, if you wanted to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And you weren't into, wow, Dale, are you literally getting a glass of water?
Yeah. Oh, you can hear that? My bad.
Yep.
Hold on. I know how to prevent this.
Yeah. Okay. So if only there was a way, the mute button. So anyway, so what I was saying is,
guys.
So what I was trying to say is that back in the day, if you weren't into YVD, and believe me, a lot of people were not, that was like a very nerdy thing back then. It's funny to see people like come around and like want to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Online now, but back then it was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Back then, if you want to play Yu-Gi-Oh! You had to go by your friend's house, or you had to go to a local. You probably got in like less than 20 matches a week or whatever. But like now you've got people climbing these leaderboards playing like 20 matches a day. And so there's a lot more experience that players nowadays have. And a lot more information's out there. So they've seen a lot of the things that the pros in the past were exposed to, but like they see it way more often. And I'm just trying to say that you can also make reads and or deductional reads based on what people are trying to hide. So if somebody's like not looking at the graveyard for a particularly long period of time, for example, that is also a key piece of information that, or like when they set a monster and they are not looking at the graveyard, that's a piece of information. The better players, I think, mix it up in a way to make themselves unpredictable. So
yeah,
that's the difference.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the big thing that I would, when it got to me, touch on is, we're hard to read. At that level, we're very difficult to read, right? And I play other people at this level, and I can't, like, I could, I'm pretty sure Kris could say it too. Like, you could read the average person, like, not even the average Go format player perfectly, almost. Where when you get to that next level, it's like, okay, you have to make the read that if they made, like, I'm making the read that you made, the read that I made this read, if that makes sense, right? Yeah. So I have actually footage of matchups that I'm gonna do where I get exposed, right? And it's against only top level players, and by top level players, it's LeBounty. Me and LeBounty played this is an amazing match. I got to dig through it, but yeah, he made a solid play. I beat him though, so if it counts for anything, I beat him. But he makes a solid play, and I was like, yeah, I should have figured. And no, it's one of those things like, yeah, what separate? Is it easier to make reads in person? Yeah, like Kris was talking to stuff about people consistently shuffle their hands and do certain things. Like, but when I played, I never shuffled my hand. On my opponent's turn, I left my hand on the table and just watched what they played. And like graveyard, okay, so graveyard tendencies, maybe something to pick up on, but like we do stuff to make it very difficult for us to read.
Yeah,
like that's the next level.
I don't, when my opponent's starting the game, I don't look at my hand, and that's the thing that I think, like, I don't know how many years I've been playing this game, almost 20 years playing this game. I don't think I've ever come across somebody who does something like that. Where, I mean, it's not just, by the way, this is to Dale's point. We were talking about how making reads. The other side of that coin, as a I want to say pro, but I'm putting air quotes, people can't see that. As a pro Yu-Gi-Oh player, the other side of that coin is restricting the amount of information that your opponent can have about you, and to be cognizant of the information you are putting out there, and to minimize that, not just by mixing it up, not by like consciously just mixing it up, but by realizing, you know, what am I looking at? Like, what am I, when I go to set a card, like, am I, you know, what information am I giving my opponent when I go to set that card and maybe pick it back up to my hand? And then doing certain things to give your opponent a specific impression that benefits you. That the controlling the flow of information and making sure that that's a unidirectional flow of information where your opponent's just feeding you and you're not feeding your opponent. That is the skill, and it is way more present in real life, just because there's so much more information just in terms of behavioral mannerisms that come up, and it's super interesting. I really love that aspect of the game, and that's one of the things that really drew me into GOAT format in the first place, because that was such a big component of GOAT control mirror matches that, like I said, you don't really see as much when you're playing, you know, Chaos Turbo against Chaos Warriors. But yeah, it does matter. But I'm just saying, I love that part of the game.
I had an interesting conversation on my podcast a couple of weeks ago with Alex Thunderpants Vanson, and we talked about how we can even gain information about who are playing even before the match starts. So, for example, if we were to like sit down and maybe it was like 5 minutes before the round starts, there'd be like a casual conversation that come in, and then maybe you can start digging for information from where you start. Because I know a lot of players have asked me, you know, where are you from? Lose to? Like, yep, where are you from? Yep. What did you lose to? Yeah. What'd you win? Like, how did the games go today? Is this your first event? You know, little information like that, because can like really give away
every round
what's going on. Yeah. So is that something that you guys do it every round?
100%.
Yeah, that's like there's no way I don't start that way. Yeah. Okay. But obviously, okay. So by every round, I do it to like round 5, 6, 7, only because like you're facing the known players at that time, and yeah, I mean, I had the luxury of sitting down and people being, "Oh, I'm against Dale," and I'm sure Kris had it too, and people just play bad against us.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. Like, I definitely have a higher win rate because of my name, but there's other parts too. Like, I mean, I wrote an article back when I was doing Yu-Gi-Oh! Overdose. It was called like tips for in real life tournament play, and like certain things like showing up at the table before your opponent. Also a big advantage. Like, you're set up and then you have dice out and you get to use your dice, and you don't have to worry about like if they're using like some rigged things, and you're befriending the people on the left and right side of you so that they're like there to, you know, in case there's ever any altercation in the match, like where there's a disagreement, like you can have like witnesses that can back you up, and you can also tell you can watch your opponent set up and, you know, chat with them, and you don't have to, like, you're set up. You don't have to shuffle anything. There's no chance you're exposing a card, or you know what I mean? Like, you can control that's, again, it's all part of the controlling the flow of information. And if you're there ready to go when the match has started, they have nothing to work off of.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I have a little anecdote that actually involves Dale and me directly that comes across with like, you know, pre-match information. This was a Mississauga regional that we were at, and Dale had asked me if I had any pulling the rugs that I could spare him for the tournament. He was playing scraps, and I was playing this Machina gear frame deck that I borrowed heavily off of one of his friends, Irvin So, and so he knew my deck was, first of all. And then on top of that, because he had pulling the rug, which was excellent against Machina gear frame, there were so many times where I would summon and be like, there's somebody back, I was like, I don't want to play it. Like, I already defeated myself, and he TO'd me that match. Like, I beat myself up so hard after that match. Dale, I don't know if you remember that or not.
No, I don't. But I do remember the time you beat me. Because I don't remember wins. I remember losses. So yeah. I remember the Mermail Mirror match.
Yep.
And yeah, sucked.
Of course, yeah. And I was so nervous when I had to play against you that one, because it's like it felt like a final boss moment. I never topped a Toronto regional before that, by the way. And this was the first time it went to 9 rounds. So I'm like, oh my god, I gotta face Dale in the final round. So
you got it off me, right?
Yeah, I got off me. I got off you. Yeah, there was a little bit of luck involved. I will say that for sure. But still, though, it's like, oh my god, I can't believe that. I can't believe that had to happen. But the losses, and it's funny enough because I talked about this to my girlfriend earlier today. I said like I had one win against Dale, and the stakes were highest. But granted, every other match that we played each other in, the stakes were at least high. It was either like a money match, it was a regional, or it was like a really prestigious like local tournament with like high pricing. So I'm like, I'm not to take anything away from you or whatnot, Dale, but I mean, like, we've had some like great matches before. That was just like the one lucky one that I just happened to get off you. That's all.
You said it, not me.
I know. I said
it. You said
Kris,
it.
Chris, I've strangely not had the pleasure of playing you, though.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
there's zero pleasure in that.
You know what? I think you might be right. Actually, that strikes me as weird because I have a memory in my mind, but now I'm also thinking, nope, maybe that didn't happen.
No, never. I don't think so. Yeah, because the events that you've done well, I have not done as well, and we just never actually sat down and had a casual game either. It's just because we've had a very limited amount of time seeing each other even though we've talked online a lot, but never really had any in real life experiences together as far as playing goes. We just get into really good deep talks whenever we see each other in real life, you and me, Kris.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's actually what my memories are, like just sitting down like at an event and just chatting you up.
Yeah, are you sure, Kris, that they don't all just look alike?
Wow, dude.
I'm just putting that out there,
man. Well,
not what I was thinking, but okay.
Neither was I. But I want to have some fun with you guys now. I haven't done this before, but since I've got 2 people on and you guys are really close with each other and I'm really good with you guys, I thought I'm going to fire off a bunch of questions with you guys. We'll go Kris first, then we'll go Dale second. And we can we can stop and explain it, like our answers in the middle of it all. But I'm going to fire off a bunch of questions at you guys, and you just kind of just answer them as we go along, all right?
If I feel like it, I guess.
Yeah. If you feel like it. All right. So
depends what the questions are.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can always refuse to comment.
Pass.
Who's the best player on Overdose outside of yourself?
Oh, it was almost an easy question.
Just say it. Say Paul. Come on.
Wow. Kris. No. You said best, right?
Best. Yes.
Oh yeah. No. Definitely not Paul. I want to say, man, you know what? I want to. This is really tough. I mean, it's all contextual. I want to put like Iman at the top. I know a lot of people give him and they call him a cheater. But I mean, I know what happened and what didn't happen, and I've seen him play with my own eyes, and I've seen him dominate in ways that very few people in the game and lesser people on Overdose were able to match. So I mean, Iman is up there. I think I've also been really impressed by Shane in a lot of times where a lot of people I think sleep on Shane. They don't give him as much credit as they give to people like me and Dale. But Shane was an innovator for sure. A lot of the top decks throughout the ages were really just Shane's creation, and watching I've watched so many matches where he's been so far behind just because his opponents like open up like amazing, and I write him off, and every time I've ever written off Shane, he's come back and won, and in ways I was like, man, that was inconceivable to me 5 turns ago. And I don't know that I've ever been as that surprised by other people. So I want to say the 2 people that stand out that deserve more recognition than they get are Iman and Shane. I know it sounds weird for Iman because he's got so many wins and like a lot of people consider him the greatest, but like nowadays, like looking back, people think things about him that just aren't true. And I wish they really were able to see him play up close and personal like I did.
Dale, what about you?
Yeah, not long.
Is anybody surprised about that one?
No, I think
I knew you were going to say him. That's why I was like, I'm not going to. Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
Go on.
Yeah. But I think if we played longer, it would have been like he would have had way more. I don't question he would have been the greatest. Like no knock to Billy, no knock to Jeff. But those guys were playing before when we were playing.
Yeah.
Right, and we were ahead of them. They're phenomenal. They sit above us right now, right? And there was a time where they weren't on the radar. Like people tend to forget that Billy Break is the first feature match ever, and this is like the most historic Yu-Gi-Oh player right now. But
I mean, a lot of their sorry, Dale, go on. I was going to say a lot of their success came from them being there in the beginning and then staying on after that Konami takeover in 2009. Whereas like a lot of the top players of that generation sort of just stopped playing. But they took all the experience that they had from before and then they applied it to this new era and were able to find success. And so I agree with you. I think if Lazaro kept playing, I think if any of us kept playing, we still would have been on top of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a point about the post 2009 environment.
Yeah, it's like arguably we're not arguably the best. This is probably how we should close it, but I'm gonna probably say it 5 times. You still put the creds that we had, which probably heavily ended in 2010. That's 11 years ago, and we're probably still better than still higher than everybody else. More wins, more tops. If that counts. If that's like the barometer for people, which it usually is, right?
Yeah, so. This is not a shot at winning teammates, but like Rymus didn't play as much as you guys did, but he's already got like several tops, and he's got a national top, and that already like encompasses like a vast majority of what like a lot of people can't even like get him close to at that point. And Rymus was able to have like so much success in a very short amount of time. And so when you use that as like probably like one of your lower ends of it, and just think when you go higher from there, you look at all across the board, everyone's got at least like 3 or 4 more tops. Several of you guys have a win, like at least over half your team has a win. The numbers are astronomical when you add up all the credentials that every single individual member has.
A lot of the things that you see though, but that people don't notice is how many times we've eliminated each other from top 8. Like Kris has taken a few bullets where he's probably the greatest player without a ring.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
100%. 100%.
Dan Marino.
and
Okay.
in my opinion, Matt Petal is number 2. But no, Kris is like Kris is his staying power in the game is like knows no bounds, right? So
thank you for saying that, by the way. And to Dale's point, yeah, I've come up against my teammates a lot. In top, I've played against Paul, Adam, Shane, and Lazaro before he was my teammate, and then after he was my teammate, and then I've also lost at the hands of my teammate too many times. I've lost to Lazaro, I've lost to Iman in the finals. That not great feeling, but I mean, yeah. So a lot of us don't get creds because we knock each other out, and that's just a function of that's what happens when you run 8 people deep into a tournament. It's like, okay, what do you expect?
Yeah, like I need to talk one thing back is there's no disrespect to Billy and Jeff.
Yeah, they're great
by doing this, right? But it's just I see a lot of interviews now and they're like, oh, old Yu-Gi-Oh players, it's a different, like, you couldn't have caught up. I'm like, we could have easily caught up. I want everyone to know that the game will always be easy to us when you get to this level. I had 0 humble pie today. But
I mean,
I didn't come into this like conversation this way. I was like, you know what, we got to go format. It's Bowie hyped me up and like, you know what? How do you guys make reads? How do you do this? I'm like, I guess.
That's what I'm supposed to do, Dale. That's my job here. This is what I'm supposed to do.
This is the Dale that was not liked in the beginning, right?
I don't know what you're talking about, man. Everybody liked you.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've heard you talk about this a few times where you're just like, oh yeah, I was super arrogant, but you know what? Like, so was everybody, and everybody thought that they were the best, and everybody like looked at each other and said like, oh, I could beat you, and it's the same thing that you were feeling, everybody else was feeling. But you know what? You were also super personable. Like you might have had some moments where you were rough around the edges and maybe said a joke or two where that wasn't really received well at the time or whatever, but holy crap, like if I can't think of a single person at the time that doesn't fall in the exact same category, myself included. Like I was awful, and I mean, I'm just saying, everybody loved you. Everybody that I knew that knew you always could say, I love Dale, I love the Canadians. I have a great time with them every time. You're super funny to be around, super fun, and super interesting. You're a great character. Like everybody loves you.
Thanks, Kris.
I mean, admittedly, I kind of had that. Admittedly, I kind of had that thought about Dale when I first kind of like met him a little bit because he was like, I felt he was a little bit like higher on himself, and which I understand because like him and his brother, Matt Petal, Ryan Petal. Matt has a brother, Ryan, who used to play, who's also very good in his own right. They were like pretty high in the mountain there, so I can understand like why they were very confident in what they were. And like I was like that too when I was in my own local. Like I was kind of high on myself, but it was when I finally sat down and then had like a real conversation with Dale is when he started, when I started to find out like more about him. This was like years and years ago. And I was like, he's actually really chill. He's he's really sociable, like really personable to talk to. It's like, you just need one good sit down conversation with somebody and it completely changes the whole complexion of the entire conversation and like the way you see somebody or perceive them. And then ever since then, like Dale and I have always been like really good with each other. Like we've been really close. I remember Dale said something really heartfelt to me one day. And he said that, if you would have lived in Toronto, I think that we could have been like really close, like really good friends. You could have been like one of the gang or something like that if you live in Toronto, but proximity just kind of gets away from us. And even more now, we can't even get close together because of the pandemic. But once he told me that, it's like completely flipped everything on my head. And it's like, man, like I love Dale and Dale like more as we go on now. And like, it's been, God, like 16, 17 years that we've known each other now, Dale. And it's been a long time anyway.
It's crazy. It's crazy. and it's even crazier? Yeah. I think I've known Kris even longer.
I can believe that. That I can believe.
Which is wacky. But so I'm just going to talk on this part one last time about why, like, when you get to this level, the level of the Overdose level and the level of a lot of like some teams are on right now, like the Duelist Academy. What's Jesse's thing called?
Yeah, the Duelist Academy.
Duelist Academy, like that level, like Jeff level, Billy level. Like the reason why we can say we're so good is we could actually explain why we're good. It's not just, I'm good because of this, because I talk, no, if you need to meet, if I need to break something down, I could separate, and Kris could do the same, separate him from the pact, right? And a lot of people can't do that. And that's kind of where, I guess, the arrogance comes from. Like, I'm way past that point now. Obviously, it doesn't sound like it. But did I do any... I try not to do any lead up for like GOAT format worlds. Well, I did do a lead up, but just I tried not to show all my cards. And this is part of why I have my videos out of me making reads. Do I want the community to think that I think this way? Because as Kris said, we're not on autopilot. And those reads aren't autopilot, right? So if I could have people remember maybe something that I did in a match that I won't do here. Maybe I'm trying to put stuff out there that I need to be.
Or maybe you're not.
No, like there's so it's one of those things where on Dueling Book I play with alts. I have alt accounts which have all got exposed, right? Because people play differently when they know they're against me, and when they know they're against D3O. So it's just I know alts are looked down on, and I don't think it's looked down on. It's just for me to get a little bit more, like to see the game from a different perspective still. So
it's interesting you say that, by the way. I also now reluctantly, by the way, not like because I want to play on alts, but it's not because I actually feel like my games go better or more interesting or whatever. I actually prefer it when people know they're playing against me, because to your point, they usually play worse, or they usually play in more predictable ways where they're and I'm thinking back to specifically like a play in that match that you just did against SD Killer, where you were talking about snatch and how you have to burn the snatch because you're never going to get mileage out of the snatch because he knows you have snatch. Like that kind of thing. Like that's an interaction that is more predictable when people know that they're playing against me. But if I'm just some random guy like that, they're just like, okay, whatever, I'll just activate whatever. And it's like, wow, okay, you didn't think this through, and it's very frustrating because I don't have an answer for you or whatever. Anyway, my point is that that my reason for playing on alts is more about I'll drop a match. Like, first of all, this is shocking to some people, but I don't have a 100% win rate in GOAT format. And wow, did you just yawn like really heavy?
No, I gasped.
Oh,
I gasped.
Okay. Anyway, but a lot of people think that like I'm at 100%, but I'm not. So I'm like inherently I'm going to lose matches, and like when I drop a match on K Perovic to anybody, it's usually not too long before somebody somewhere is either sharing that in their private discords, sharing that with a conversation, or like what AJTBLS did, and he's like, hey guys, look at this pro read I did on Kris Perovic, he sucks and I'm the best. And it's like, wow, dude, that's like that's the the quickest way to make sure that we never play again for fun, because like you are super annoying, and I just like lose respect for people when they do that. I'm not saying that they can't like recover their like from that feeling that they give me in that moment, but I'm just saying that I hate being the target of people like that. It's like a catch-22. It's right. It's like if I win, it's like, okay, well, he was expected to win. If I lose, it's like, oh my God, it's the biggest thing of all time. I've got to make a big deal about it. So that's why I play on alts. I don't like being surrounded by that. But I wish I could use my main account more, because like I said, I just feel like matches go easier. I have the highest win rate when I play on that account.
But I only think that was the first question. I haven't even gotten the second one yet. That ran a long time, but that was something else, and that was definitely fun.
I definitely won't do that again. I'm sorry.
No worries, that's all right. We got time. Second one of this quote unquote rapid fire question. Who's the best player that it was never on OD?
Sorry, hear the question.
Who's the best player that was not on OD?
Kris, you're first.
Do I have to be?
Yeah.
I'd say there are two people, Adrian Madaj and Wilson Luke.
Ooh, I haven't heard that. Wilson Luke. I haven't heard that name in a while. Wow. Oof.
And this is all contextual, by the way. Like this was around a particular era of 2005, and then a little beyond. But like while I played up until 2008, like those were the two people who I thought were like top tier that weren't.
Yeah.
For me, when we joined Overdose, so obviously, like me and Kris only got to play as like we're teammates for life. But he was out of the competitive scene. What year was that, Kris?
I actually, the day I quit was December 1st, 2007. I came back for 3 events in 2008, Costa Mesa to Minneapolis. But then after that, Minneapolis, I was done.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know that we never played competitively at the same time. So like Kris, like we were flag carriers almost, right? For what they started, and I hate to say it, but we were the best team. There was no player at that time. Oh yeah, this is the third time, right? Okay, so historically, yeah, had there been players that should have been on the team, like that were better, that could have been on the team, yeah. Wilson is one of those players if you talk it back, but like our era of dominance was like who else was consistently winning and topping that we wanted on that team, right? So it was the Adam and Lazaro race, who were exactly on the same team. And those two were the poster boys for Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Competitive Yu-Gi-Oh. And Jeff and Billy weren't on, like, I guess at the end of it, I'm really trying to think about it. Yeah, could I talk it back now? Yeah, these players, after what they've done, could have been on that team. Should have been, but honestly, no one. Fuck, this arrogance is.
Yeah, but Dale, let me pick up a point that you're trying to make. Yeah. I also want to say that these players were not the players that they were later. Like in 2013, Jeff Jones 2013 was not what Jeff Jones was in 2006. Jeff Jones in 2006 was hanging around Starwind. Jeff Jones in 2006 was, just sort of on duelist grounds and being sarcastic, which he is. I'm not saying he isn't, but I'm just saying he wasn't the person in 2006 who was saying, you know what, let me think about something interesting or innovative or like a particular strategy that other people aren't looking at. I think like Jeff saw an opportunity after everyone kind of quit the game to say like, oh, look, I can do something interesting again with the knowledge that he amassed over the years and started looking at the game a lot differently. So do I think in 2006 that Jeff Jones was at our level? No, not even close. Do I think that Jeff Jones 2013, 2021, do I think he's at our level? I don't know. I think he might be better like than
yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like I'm just saying that Jeff Jones is a great player by any metric today. But if you were with us back in 2005, I think you would not be you would not disagree with us by thinking like, oh yeah, we're the best. There's no one really better. So to Dale's point, I think we were the best, but I think there are other people. That's why I said my answer was contextual. I'm only looking at the time I was competitive.
Yeah. So I guess what we have to talk about is before we were on Overdose, we were two separate teams, and then we just decided to be the best team. So yeah, the players Overdose wanted or not wanted, like we wanted to team up because we were already collaborating, right? We were collaborating before that. I was collaborating with Paul and Shane, and eventually we just like, you know what? I guess Kris and Anthony kind of stopped playing, and it was really Paul, Shane, Adam, and then it was me, Lazaro, Matt. So, yeah, we joined forces.
Let me throw a couple names at you and see if like they might be considered maybe the best that wasn't an OD like past or present.
Okay. I already know the names you're gonna say.
Patrick Oben.
Okay, so
actually no, surprisingly no.
Okay, he wasn't that era, right? Our era is like like anything before 2010, right? 2007 to 2010.
Yeah, we're talking like before Konami took over.
Sure, yeah, I'll talk about.
I'm friends with a lot of these people that you're probably gonna say, and no disrespect to any of you guys, you probably won't listen to this anyways. But no, sorry, Caesar, no.
Wow. I wasn't going to call him out specifically. I'm hoping that he asks.
I love Caesar though.
I'm hoping David asks about one particular person. Let's see if he does.
Okay. All right. So one name comes to mind. Tirsak Punsambat.
Oh.
No. T is part of this legendary, like, he was on Overdose on Odyssey, and sure.
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
I mean, I love T. Don't get me wrong. I've had so much fun with all the Kamikaze guys, and I love T. And I'm gonna have to probably say this, or you'll probably have to infer this for the other people because I don't want to keep saying this. But I've watched so many matches of T play where, like, I'll interrupt him in the middle of a match, fun matches when I interrupt, and I'm like, dude, are you stupid? Like, why are you doing that way? Like, you had game or whatever. And he's like, oh, didn't see that. Whoops. And then I've had so many interactions with that. That I can't imagine that when I'm not watching him, he's not doing the exact same thing. So no, I don't. And then also, I also find that he was not particularly difficult to read against. He was really good about coming up with, like, certain things when other people weren't. Like, so, I mean, his era was 2004, but also, T Heroes, like that era, T Heroes was a really good deck and compared against the rest of the field. And he deserves credit for that. But as a player, even from a technical point of view, no, I don't think he's at that level.
All right. What about Philly Luna?
I think, that's similar to T. T. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Similar thing. Okay. Jerry Wang.
Hold on a second.
Sorry.
I just want to say about Philly. Philly, like, I always felt I did the same thing with him. I was also super critical back then. But he was way more. I think if we had T on right now, T would maybe think that he was great, and I was silly for criticizing him. But Philly was like, oh yeah, you're right. He was always had a good humor about being criticized, and I appreciated that about him.
I never had a good humor about him.
What about Jerry Wang?
He was on Overdose.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, hold up. No, he wasn't.
Okay. Are you really?
Really? I'm saying, like, he was an honorary member, but he was always adamant about doing his own thing, and that's a very, like, common misconception.
Wow, I just found out, and I've been on this. So David, yes, one person.
Yeah.
Jerry. Okay, Jerry. All right.
I agree. Jerry's one of the two people I've ever had true difficulty reading. It's very difficult to get a read on Jerry.
All right.
I mean, I have 100% win ratio against Jerry Wang, just to put that out there. But no, really, Kris?
What?
He was never.
Yeah. So two things. One, I'm also 100% against Jerry Wang in tournaments, beat him at Boston and Ohio. Separately, he was back in. So this is. I mean, I'm dating myself a little bit, but back in the neutral ground regional days, it would always be like me, Anthony, Jerry, Brian. I'm not talking about Cornell because he didn't go to the regionals as much. I was talking about Man, I can't pronounce the last name. Begins with a P. And there was a couple other people, like in the New York area. Cam, for example. We would always, like, get top at these regionals, and there was always, like, a very high level of mutual respect, I'd say, between all of us, but in particular between Anthony and Jerry. And Anthony was sort of like the center of Overdose. I mean, I don't mean that because I just mean, like, he was the center of gravity for all of us. Like, we all sort of circled around him. He was a big personality that we all kind of, and I'm just saying Jerry was the same way with him that everyone was with Anthony. So it was really easy to conflate that Jerry was part of the team, but Jerry preferred to test by himself and come up with things by himself because he had a very unique passive play style that no one else really had. And so he didn't really gain value from other people's opinions, but the thing that made his relationship with OD different than his relationship with anyone else was that he was always willing to share with us because there was that mutual level of respect. And then if we were talking to him before an event, he would say, no, I think this is good. No, I think this is good. And like before Columbus, he would say, yeah, I'm going to run Monarchs with one decree with Treeborn Frog. And we're like, I don't know if that's a good idea. But he did his own thing and he found success doing his own thing. And he did have a collaborative relationship with him. But no, he was adamant about not being on OD when Worlds happened. When Nationals happened in 2005, he was happy to say like this was who I went to Nationals with. This was the group I was with. And yeah, if you want to call me Overdose for that, like, okay, I'm Overdose. But it was not so much like, oh, I'm going to play test with this group as much as the rest of the group play tested with each other or anything like that. So it's kind of standoffish. It's kind of weird. He may look back and even say he was OD, but I'm saying I was there in the moment. It was very much a like, is he on OD? I don't know. Whereas it was more defined with everybody else.
So I swear every metagame article lists Jerry Wang on Overdose.
Yeah, I know. He was an honorary member. Like that's what we called him. Like when he wasn't around, we said he's an honorary member. Like we used to say he's on OD whether he likes it or not. But I'm just saying he was always very adamant about doing his own thing.
So I've always had him on the team to say this was the greatest team of all time, and I'm gonna stick by that still.
No, it's not like he was on another team.
Exactly right. I mean, later on he was, but. Yeah.
What's your next question?
Yeah.
Jerry Wang definitely belongs up there. That's the answer to your question. I think me and Dale both agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other players you're gonna say?
I was gonna say LeBounty, Jonathan LeBounty.
Oh, you did it! You did it. That was the one.
Yeah. That was the last one I had in my mind.
No, he's trash.
I love LeBounty.
No, he's trash.
I don't have enough. I don't have a talking point.
Okay, all right, fair enough. All right, let's go on. I think it's a little bit more obvious with Kris, maybe not so much with Dale, but favorite deck of all time.
Dale, you go first.
Carter Safe Return Zombies.
Oh yes, I see. I remember that Toronto regional. At the end of it all, like I think Shen and Lazaro were going around asking everybody. It was like, "Hey, you got any Carter Safe Returns for trade?" Like you guys were hoarding it, and then you guys were getting ready to play that big event. I think it was Comic Odyssey Burn that won that event, if I recall correctly. A little hazy.
No, it was LeBounty.
LeBounty enough.
Funny
enough.
That?
Okay.
LeBounty. So me and Paul were both in top 4. Yep. I was against Hugo with CO Burn, and he was against LeBounty. LeBounty just Pot of Avarice into Crush Sangan into sacking the shit out of him.
And I know that LeBounty also knocked out Kris in top 8 there in that same tournament, if I recall correctly.
That's my new thing.
And it sucks because I'm pretty sure both of these were supposed to in opposite brackets too, so you guys could have actually played each other as well if you guys won out until the end.
Who, me and
you and Kris? Yeah.
Wow, I don't know. But I'll take your word for
it. We were so we weren't even on Overdose at that time. It was just like we were collabing, right? We ended up joining teams because we collabed so much, and
I mean that's how Paul got the zombie deck from you guys, right?
Yeah. It was in trade for 3 Illbloods to borrow.
Which, I mean that it
worked out for all of us.
I think my answer, I mean, I'd have to go back. I don't really want to go back. I'd say there was a brief period in 2013 when I played, and I loaded up Dino Fists at YCS Meadowlands. But in lead up to that tournament, I was testing Infernities a lot, and I'm just saying I really like Infernities as a deck.
Oh, damn. Okay, sorry, I had to talk that back.
Infernities.
No, it's a good deck.
Yeah, Infernities. Damn.
So I'm sure there are other decks across the years that I'm not thinking about. But yeah, I mean, if I'm not putting too much thought into this, I think the obvious answer is Dark Armed or Dad DDT. That was I felt like it was the strongest deck I'd ever come up with or played relative to the field, and it felt like I was just playing a different game.
All right, there's a side question I do want to ask you specifically, Kris, about this, because you were also teammates with one of the other best DDT players of all time in Marc Glass. So I want to know, how was it having compare yourself to Marc when it came to playing DDT?
I could answer that.
I don't know. What do you want to say, Dale?
You can take it.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing that I'd say, let me start by saying,
okay, hold on. I
Go
come
on.
up with it. So let's talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! Brothers. There's obviously, if we're gonna put Marc and Kris as brothers, it's not Lazaro and Dale. It's Bobby and Billy.
Wow. Okay. So, first of all, I'm not going to say anything quite like that. I will say though. So, like, first of all, of all the people, of all the true like strangers that I've met in this game, like people in particular that I came across to know after the beginning of the, like, because I've known Dale almost since the beginning, but I'm saying like the people that I've kind of like met midway, Marc Glass or Kris Glass was by far one of the kindest people that I'd ever met. So I am not inclined to say anything negative about him.
Oh, if we're talking about kindness, Kris is Bobby.
Okay.
And Marc is. But that's not what we're talking about.
Okay. So that said, two things. One is it is very frustrating, or at least not so much now. Well, not at all now because it doesn't come up now. But back in the day, it was very frustrating that, there was that St. Louis event that Diamond 2 Turbo was first legal for. The deck list that I had made, which is what Carlo Perez, used to win the event. I shared that with his teammate on Project D forum, and like nobody knew about that. And then at the next format, which was the next format, which was also the next event, was Houston. I made a deck. I got second place with it. It was crazy because everyone else was like playing like Monarchs, or Paul was playing Gadgets, and that's why I played Paul in top 16. I played Adam Korn in top 8. I played Kenson Yee in top 4, and these were all like names, and I felt like I dominated the field, and I happened to lose against Iman, who was the one person in the room playing Bazoo Return, which was a bad. Anyway, I'm getting off track. My point was that I made the deck when no one else was even. Everyone else thought it was dead. No one even thought it was like a thing. And then the very next event, Marc Glass used my deck, added Dasher, which made the deck worse, and used Wabaku instead of Threatening Roar, which was worse, and won. And then like everyone sort of just gave him credit for it. They're like, wow, it's a really good DDT deck that you came up with, Marc Glass. And it was like, whoa, did you not pay attention to what happened like 2 weeks before? Like that was the actual innovation. And then so that was kind of frustrating. So then the following event that we played at, which was Montreal, I had the opportunity round 2 to play against him, and I beat him. And I felt like that was like for the crown of like who was the Diamond Dude Turbo champion. And which is to say that in summary that I did always feel like I was a better Diamond Dude Turbo player. I felt like I was a better Diamond Dude Turbo innovator, and he rode on my coattails in that respect. But that said, at the time anyway, very few people were very interested in the deck. I mean, nowadays it's like a thing that like someone like you, David, and some of my closer friends like will go back and say like that was the most explosive deck of all, like I love playing from that era or whatever, and like they might even have like their own copy built or something like that. But at the time, like nobody wanted to touch it. Like nobody got it. Nobody understood it. They were like, I picked this up and I don't know how to win. And a lot of it involved like thinking out like 12 moves in advance at a time when, decision trees only had like 2 branches. And like, that's not a thing that was well suited for a lot of people. So I give him a lot of credit for picking up the deck. I give him more credit for finding success with the deck. He definitely obviously had to do like quite a number of things right. But I'm just saying the difference between that and me, I still felt was large enough that I thought that I was like definitively the better Diamond Dude Turbo player.
Mm-hmm. All right. I'm glad I got that.
Go ahead. I'm gonna stay here quickly on one point. So Kris talked me out of Diamond Dude Turbo.
Oh my god, don't bring this up.
And I beat him in top 8.
Okay, that's it. Okay.
In that same tournament. So I just want people to know that
he gave me the magical stones.
It could have been 3 of us.
He gave me the magical stones to that event.
No. It wasn't that. It was
that was
I played I played the deck that was his worst match.
Really. I mean, we keep talking about this.
Old Vindictive Magician. You can't.
It was Exile Force. Exile Force answers it. I don't know what you're talking
about.
Yeah. So what? All right.
I had an exam the following Monday, so I couldn't go to that event. I was so upset because 4 of my friends went and they all bombed out. They had all the combined wins of 1 win after 3 rounds. I'm like, and they all left. They all left after day 1. They didn't care to come back. It's like, yep. I'm like, you guys just sucked.
Ouch.
I'm not gonna flip it, so I'm gonna go with Dale first now this time. Your favorite event of all time?
Shonen Jump Chicago 2005. Not because I won, but that's where the relationship with all the US players started.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it, right? And we came in there starstruck by Overdose. Mm-hmm. And then Lazaro beat Brian Cornell round 1. I'm like, hey, what do you know? They're normal. Well, sorry. They're not normal. They are. We're on that.
We're not invincible.
Yeah, they're mortal.
Yeah.
Best way to put it.
So yeah. There was a time where we were reading, like we were in Canada, right? So we didn't have we couldn't go to events, right? Our events was nationals. I got laughed at by the States. So yeah, it was just we went. We dominated, and yeah, the rest is history. I pro stormed Paul in top 8. I'm just gonna put that out there. Top 4, and then I pro stormed Carlos in the finals.
Yeah,
and I yelled to Paul. No, I told Carlos, I'm like, ask Paul what I did. So like, yeah, I was talking big back then.
And it's never stopped.
He had to go against back-to-back Bellidos on that one too.
You know why? Because the better Bellido is so humble and quiet. You can't get 2 of them. Just like, you know what? Today, Kris was the humble one. And good cop, bad cop.
I was really hoping that Lazaro would have beat Carlos. That would have been like you versus Lazaro in the finals. I wish that happened. I was praying that happened during that time.
So we had a crazy run where anytime both of us made top 8, obviously Lazaro won most of them. Anytime both of us made top 8, we automatically won the tournament.
Yeah. Till
Philadelphia, when I scooped to Adam. That was the only time it didn't happen, when we both made top 8 and didn't. I'm not saying I would have won, but Adam obviously had the better matchup. He had Prime Material Monarchs versus in a Gladiator Beast field. Would he beat me? He probably would have beat me if we played anyways, but that was the only time that we both didn't make top. Mm-hmm. Like, we both made top in Toronto when he won. We both made top in Chicago when I won. We both made top in Costa Mesa when he won. And I think it was Toronto twice. I can't remember. But Philadelphia would have been the only other time.
Kris, your favorite event?
Shonen Jump North Carolina.
North Carolina, okay.
It was not the one. I didn't actually top. I bubbled. I lost to J Kim in round 9. And that's my own fault. I was in complete control of this match, and I lost on time. And ever since then, I've sat on the side facing the clock. I didn't even know time was like coming up. But that was the event. So I mean, Shonen Jump New Jersey was the event that Overdose kind of went to first. We formed together on April 2nd, 2005, and that was the first event after that we played at. And we got 2 people in top 4, and we played against on both sides of the bracket. We played against Comic Odyssey, and we lost both of those matches. And we thought in the beginning like that was it. Like, we just like that was our one shot to stop this California powerhouse from dominating the game overall, but in particular, like, we felt like we lost or we failed at defending our territory. But then at the last minute, truly at the last minute, we all decided to rent a car, and like we were under 25. So most of us were under 25, so it was kind of an issue, like, to get a rental car, because you have to be over 25 to rent a car. And we drove down to North Carolina, and we we didn't have a hotel that Friday night. We drove down like through the night. We were outside the convention center area in our pajamas because we changed in the car, and we had our toothbrushes on us because, I mean, anyway, my point is that was the event. Like we went into, we said, you know what? We're going to do it. We're going to do it. We showed up, and sure enough, Anthony took it home. And that was like, we all barricade, like bombarded him after he won, smothered him with hugs, and like, just, we were ecstatic. And I mean, since then, a lot of our success has sort of been drowned out by this, I guess, expectation that we would succeed. Or it's been like undermined by this expectation that we would succeed. But at that moment, like, I guess that was when we were still the underdogs. And to come back and win that, or to come out unexpectedly and win that event, for me was like I guess made it the best event that I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, well, I guess that's part of the reason why I like Chicago too, right? We came in as underdogs. We weren't known.
Yeah, I get that.
So yeah, it put us on the map, just like you were saying. It put you on the map. So
just go back, because this actually has an influence with both of you too. So the first regional I ever won was with Diamond Du Turbo, oddly enough, and this was the format when like Zombie Return and Perfect Circle, like Monarchs, was like the best decks of the format, and I won a Montreal regional with Diamond Du Turbo. I was perennially laughed at by Toronto because like I was just this small town guy who like always struggled every single Toronto event that I played. I go to Montreal, I like destroy them, like win the whole event. Like they played till top 8 at that point in time because pricing wasn't as great as it was in Toronto. And I remember like Toronto would just like laughed at Montreal, saying that you guys like couldn't beat some scrub from Peterborough who can't like do it well at Toronto regionals. And then I remember 2 weeks later there was a Toronto regionals, and then I got like massively destroyed by half the meta out there, and it was like, oh man, it was so painful just going from like a regional win to like just getting destroyed, and virtually with the same deck too. So DDT for Kris, because DDT is kind of one of his decks, and then like Toronto lined up because I think Dale, you were kind of a part of that too, just kind of laughing at Montreal.
Exactly. I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that was me maybe leading the pack.
Yeah.
By saying that. It sounds like 2007, Dale.
I know, right? Oh, so long ago. What's your favorite memory with the other person? So Dale, what's your favorite memory of Kris? It doesn't have to be positive on Kris's part. You can knock on it for all you want.
No. We've
Wow.
Oh
no. I'm trying to. This. Our relationship has grown so much over like the years, right? And
like it doesn't even have to be a Yu-Gi-Oh moment either. It doesn't even have to evolve.
It was.
It was edited out of this conversation.
Yeah.
Where you struggled to think of one positive memory.
No, there's a ton of positive memories, but it's not. It's what was one of the reasons that I was arrogant and wanted to get to the next level is to prove the Overdose guys, Kris primarily, that we belong with you guys. Or let alone, we're amazing friends now. Mm-hmm. Just let you guys know, but I just want to prove to Kris that hey, I belong with you guys. That's my memory. Like you might not have thought it at the time, but I was definitely supposed to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that now, and I could understand why you say that and why you would think that. Like, I wouldn't think that. I wouldn't have thought that back then. I also was like, I still am super arrogant, but I'm way more low key about it nowadays. But back then, I mean, I definitely like, I don't think I thought. I think I had like a top 10 players, and there was like a video I did with like Ned, where I was like in Anthony's kitchen, and there was like, oh, name the top 10 players, and like I didn't name you, and I remember like you thinking like, wow, did you just not mention me on purpose? And then like for me, it was like, wow, yeah, I feel like Dale is not at the level of like Lazaro, or and I don't know if I even put Lazaro on that list, but in particular like Adrian Madaj, right? Like he's always somebody that like raised to the top of my head as somebody, and Wilson Luke, like I just mentioned. But like I never thought at the time, I didn't think that you were on that level. I mean, I understand what you're talking about, and to everyone who's listening, yeah, me and Dale, like we are really good friends now. We are actually probably better friends today than we ever were, even when we were on the same team. And that's because there's this now long and storied history of us competing against each other and working together, and specifically trying to be better than the other person, and like then ultimately collaborating with each other. And honestly, I guess to answer your question, David, my favorite memory of Dale involves like when they decided to join Overdose, or like when we approached them and when we talked about it. It was at Costa Mesa, and for me, that like the reason that's my favorite memory is because I feel like that was the turning point in our relationship. It went from being, like I will look down on you, or I have to look down on you because you're not on our team, / I'm going to try to get as much information from you as I can because I'm looking out for my team, / you can't beat me. And it went from that to like I am all in on being on the same page. And for me, our relationship was so much better after that moment, after it became more collaborative from the outset, not just like in the days leading up to an event, but just, if we ever rang each other or hit each other up online, then we could just like talk to each other freely and not have that sort of barrier in between of like, oh, I'm secretly rooting for you to lose. Ever since we dropped that, I feel like our relationship has gotten a lot better, and that's why I'm saying I think that's my favorite memory of us, that because it's just that it made everything better.
When you
to take the negative away from it, it was Kris was pushing me to get to where I am now, right? Kris is part of the story of like part of my as much as he's part of my story, I'm part of his. It's just Kris made me the player I am today. He's definitely, he has a chapter there. So that's I don't mean for it to be negative. But yeah, like stuff happens for a reason, and it's growth.
And we'll go to the last question out of it. Who has the better record between you two head to head?
We only played once.
Wait, is that true?
Yeah.
Please don't let that be true.
Yeah.
That's not
Montreal.
true. Hold up. No, that's not true.
No, when else did
we played on Dueling Book, dude.
Oh.
Yeah, that like, well, any like official matches. I don't want to say maybe like just fun like test matches, but
it was a heavy slump day.
Yeah, and I busted you up.
But yeah, we
yeah, I don't think we played in Shonen Jumps or YCS's.
No, we only ever played once, and
yeah, you won.
Yeah, you
won. It was Montreal.
I won. Old Vindictive Magician. I'm gonna call it that.
Whatever.
Yeah, because I know that there's the feature match between you two in top 8. And yeah, that was, I know you were running DET at the time, Kris, because we were talking about that. So, of course, Kris beats Marc, and then now Dale beats Kris, later on in the tournament, which is kind of funny how that all kind of happens, like all future teammates coming at each other. And again, this goes back to what you guys were saying. It's like, we kind of knocked each other out in events because, eventually you're going to get up there. And of course, it's hard to avoid at that point in time. If everybody does well, eventually you gotta play against each other. And Dale, what were you playing that day again in Montreal?
Monarchs, apprentice Monarchs.
Okay.
When everyone else was running like Dekoichi Monarchs, Dekoichi Spies.
Yeah, and that's when Crystal Seer came out. Were you running Crystal Seer in that deck?
No, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so it's like Old Vindictive. That was like really the big card.
Yeah, I wanted to go like you attack, Old Vindictive, flip, tribute for Thessalos.
Yeah.
Attack.
Okay. Got it. Gentlemen, what a fun time having you both back on. First time I ever had someone return, aside from Ruggles, but that was a completely different thing. So you two are the first two I've ever had back on. Both very good friends of mine. I'm glad I was able to have this very fun conversation with you. And it's kind of fun to see like just two great friends just go at each other's necks for a little bit as well. So you guys provided definitely an entertainment aspect on my side of the story. And again, both of you are engaged. And of course, Kris did it more recently. So congratulations, Kris, for your recent engagement.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Kris, we'll start with you, man. Any shout outs you want to give before we head out?
I mean, shout out to my fiance for, being supportive of me doing this. But then separately, I want to shout out all my Overdose teammates. I love you all. I miss you all. I'm sad that we don't have something binding us together like Yu-Gi-Oh! Once did. And then I want to shout out GoFormat.com for keeping the dream alive. And I encourage everybody to check that out if they haven't already.
Mm-hmm. And Clash of Champions is happening this weekend, so everyone can tune in on that. Check out if you've been a championship of a YCS, Shonen Jump Championship, Go Format Championship, ARG, LCS, or FLC, or Nationals. You can be part of it. Dale, any shout outs on your end?
It's so repetitive, but yeah, my fiance too, for allowing me to be on these calls. And yeah, like accepting this hobby that she never knew existed. My Overdose teammates as well. I want to show them even more love than
always have to one up everybody.
And yeah, like the GOAT format community, and I call this season 2 of GOAT format, and it just shows how recently I've got into it, where Kris has been this flag carrier for quite some time. But yeah, I think season 2 of Go Format is insane. A lot of new stuff, and thinking a format like I stopped playing last format at the end of it because I felt it got stale. And now it's kind of cool. And yeah, everyone in the community and GoFormat.com especially, Scully does a great job of promoting and keeping up with everybody.
Yeah, and then we don't have a date yet for the actual World Championships. I asked Scully, I think last night, and he didn't have a set date yet for it, but he's got an idea. It's probably going to happen around the fall time, but I'm looking forward to that, and he's absolutely done a great job. Also, he was the first podcast that I did this year, talking about it leading up to the event that I commentated, and that World Championship belt looks absolutely stupendous. I'm assuming you guys have already seen that belt.
Oh, yeah.
I love that belt.
Yep.
I love that belt, and that's going to be a really cool prize to hand out to whomever gets that. I think, Dale, you came second place, I think, in the last World Championships, if I recall.
Yeah.
Can't let that slip by you this time. You got to get that belt.
For sure. And, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, do I want me to win? But I would be equally as happy if any OD member won that.
Of course.
So.
Same.
Can we expect Lazar to be in that event too, though, Dale, or do you have any idea about that?
He has to qualify for it, so he'll probably play this weekend.
Oh, so his Shonen Jump Championship wins don't really count, or rather,
I don't know.
I
don't know how.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's just for Clash. I don't think Scully is allowing. I don't know what the invites are. But like,
so just to be clear, last season, the
right.
legacy players who had topped an event during 2005 were extended a courtesy invite to the World Championships. If you did not use your invite last year, that invite will carry over till next year. Lazaro obviously used his invite, so it does not carry over. He's going to have to requalify. Let me finish. I might be wrong on one part, but just let me say this last part. If you did qualify, in addition to having that legacy invite, and then you did play in Worlds, as was my case, because I won a Format Library Championship, and I also topped back in 2005. My invite is also, or I don't have the same legacy invite to lean on. So like those expire for people who happen to play for whatever reason. So just to say that I don't have an invite yet, and that's one of the reasons why I want to play this Clash tournament, because I need my Worlds invite. Mm-hmm. And what am I wrong about, Dale?
Oh yeah, Lazar didn't have a top in 2005. He won entry on that tournament that you made for free.
Yes, I forgot about that. Yes, you know what? I hooked you guys up. I mean, I made it so we could all play.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. So again, Clash of Champions happening this weekend on goatformat.com. I could commentate. Again, I'm not sure what my scheduling is yet, but I could be on there. And the other guys actually found out that I do actual sports broadcasting in real life too. So they were a little bit shocked to find out when I actually got on and had to take over play-by-play duties for a little bit. It's like, oh, he's actually going pretty hard with it. So a lot different from what I think Lucas usually takes the play-by-play, and I would do color for the most part. But we had to swap roles because he had to step out for a half-an-hour break for lunch and kind of took over for a bit. A lot of fun though.
Before we leave, Dale. I mean, not Dale. David, I just want to say I want to say on behalf of the GOAT format community, I know that before we did our first podcast together, you were not as involved in the GOAT format community as you are today. And I just want to say, I think we all appreciate that you've taken an active interest in it, and that you've extended these invites to me and Dale to return to talk about GOAT format, and that you're promoting it. I think you're doing a service to the community that I know we are thankful for. So I just want to thank you on behalf of everybody for doing what you're doing.
Oh, of course, absolutely. And not to mention that I too was, even though I was a noob, I was terrible. I think I was just starting out, maybe a year in, but I too was a part of that format as well. And it has some sentiment to me as well, because knowing that that's where I kind of grew up on. Those are my roots, because I've been in this game a long time too, almost as long as you guys have. So of course it's something I want to support, and something that I personally love as well. And it's nice to kind of get a refreshing change of pace of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm glad that GOAT format is being able to stay alive, because there's always been such a the demand for it, and now we finally have it in a tangible form, and it's nice to see it. And I'm happy to help out in any way I can with this. And bringing you two on definitely was going to be a big cornerstone, because I know you guys are absolutely highly involved with this, absolutely love it. And not that I blame you guys, because I love being a part of it too. And I always look forward to being a part of GOAT format moving forward.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, that is Dale Bellido and Kris Perovic. That is God and Superman, respectively, as their nicknames of, as Dale says, the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Team to ever exist in history. Kris and Dale, thank you so much for joining me on and being the first returning guys for my podcast.
Let's make it a three-peat.
We very well could. Maybe with the World Championships coming up, we'll have to talk again soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
All right, you gentlemen have a wonderful night. Thank you so much.
You too. Take care.
You too. Thank you.
Hopefully nobody interrupts me, and then it should be fine. Should be fine. For the love of God, nobody better friggin' call me. My mom's called me a couple times in between podcasts, and I just... It's damn it, Mom.
Mom, I'm doing a podcast.